Hi guys, so I've read you from the beginning to chapter 2 of my book, Whispers of Forgotten Land, Prophecies of Eve. Now I am going to read you chapter 3 from Dragon's Mouth. This is where Chariot comes into play. This one is quite a hard chapter to read because it's so fast. So bear with me and I'll try and do it as clear as I possibly can. Right, chapter 3 from Dragon's Mouth. The mushrooms seemed the same to Eve, but the forest was so different. Vines now covered the trunks of the trees. The grass was thick and the forest was more dense. They both landed like feathers on the soft green moss. The smallest of the mushrooms was no more. The sun was now well below the treetops and descending fast. Peg looked. "Okay," he said. Eve remembered the wise owl's words. "Choose wisely, for evil lurks within. Clear your mind." Eve got down on her knees and looked at the 3 remaining mushrooms. "But which one?" said Eve. "That is for you to decide, Eve. Go with what your heart is telling you." Eve began to get frustrated. "All the times I begged the Lord, why me? Why have I been chosen to carry this burden? If I kissed the wrong one, I will have failed. Evil lurks within. The owl said so." In her frustration, Eve forgot about the great wise owl's instructions that she should feel no bitterness or anger. Peg looked at Eve, getting frustrated. "I don't know why the Lord chose you, but you have been blessed. You are now the new guardian, and you have brought life back to these lands." Eve felt betrayed and bitter. She had lost her mother and her grandmother in a past life. Being burdened now with this massive responsibility, for which she had to solve an impossible problem, was too much for the teenager to bear. Eve vented her anger straight on the largest of the red mushrooms. She leaned forward without a second thought and kissed the spotted top harshly. Peg cried out, "No!" The largest red mushroom bulged repeatedly to the size of several horses, knocking Eve onto her back. She got up quickly. The insects and the birds took off frantically into the enchanted forest, banging into one another as they fled. The animals of the forest came stampeding, knocking into one another, thumping into trees as if to escape. The large red mushroom bulged further and started to pulsate, inflating and deflating as it breathed. The mushroom bulged briefly on one side and then the other. Then huge lumps of bulges started appearing and disappearing briskly all over it. Ferocious roars of hisses came from within, as if a terrible battle was being fought within the mushroom. The side of the mushroom split, revealing a furious struggle inside. Red scales flew out, then ivory fur. Suddenly a spray of red fire flared from the split in the mushroom, just missing Eve and Peg. Eve and Peg started to walk backwards as they looked on. The mushroom burst, covering them both with debris, obscuring their vision. They were thrown violently backwards, hitting the nearest trees. Eve wiped her eyes and Peg blinked, but something was cloaking over them, casting them into darkness. There were roars of thunder, and they could hear a tremendous hissing and snarling and the snapping of huge jaws. The ground shook and the trees cracked. There were red flames of intense heat, then freezing flames of white. Even Peg could hear the wind pick up to an incredible speed. The daylight became visible as a large wing unwrapped itself from around Eve and Peg. They both looked up to see an ivory dragon in a gold and black suit of armour towering above them on its hind legs, its mouth trapping the tail of a horned red dragon that was withering and lashing out furiously as it tried to flee up into the air. The red dragon was holding onto a chalice with its long sharp talons. The red dragon opened its jaws, turned its head and looked straight at Eve and Peg. It hissed and pointed its long sharp tongue and shot a deadly fire of poison straight at both of them. The ivory dragon jumped, blocking the path of the poison. The ivory dragon's fur and armour began to burn and melt. In its agony, it let go of the red dragon's tail, and the red dragon escaped up into the air, destroying a wide area of the forest by fire from its jaws as it made its escape, the chalice still clenched in its talons. The ivory dragon's body was still burning and dissolving. The inner muscle tissue was now starting to show. The dragon started to stumble about in distress and pain, struggling to breathe. The ivory dragon started to choke and regurgitate. A lump formed in the dragon's throat each time it regurgitated. The lump moved closer to its mouth. Slimy foam started dripping from its long white teeth. Its mouth wide open, it regurgitated again, and a sack of slime dropped to the ground. The ivory dragon passed out, its body went down, then its neck and its head followed. Its head hitting the ground last. The earth shook and a little like the ripples of a pebble on water. The ribs of the dragon were now being revealed. as the poison continued to dissolve away at its body. The slimy sack began to move. Eve quickly stood up, calling out, "We must help, there's something alive in there." She ran over to the sack, with Peg following. Eve knelt down and began to rip the sack apart, covering her arms in blood and red slime. "It's a human." Eve pushed the slime off the head. She noticed it was a teenage boy. The boy started to choke. Eve opened his mouth and pulled out the long slime, blocking his throat and lungs. His lungs drained free of fluid. He took a gasp of air. "The boy king," said Peg. The boy lifted his arm, pointing to the ivory dragon. "Help him! Help Chariot!" he called out. Eve turned round and scuttled on her knees to the dying dragon. She felt such sorrow and pity for the dragon had protected her and Peg. His pearly eye looked straight into Eve's deep green eyes. Eve kissed his soft nostrils. His armour began to glitter and glow. Flesh started to regenerate. His fur started to cover over his battle wound. His armour remoulded over his fur. His eyes lit up to a lovely swirling pearly brown. The dragon began to talk to Eve. "Why, a guardian fairy? Am I in heaven, or do I dream? Pinch me, wake me, for you are too beautiful for my eyes. Tell me, my guardian fairy, may I have the pleasure of your name and your hand, so I may kiss the softness of your skin with my lips?" Eve looked bewildered, then started to giggle. "My name is Eve, and that's all I need, a flirty dragon." Chariot lifted himself with his big, huge paw. He lifted Eve's hand and kissed her skin with his big, soft, furry lips. "Pleased to meet you, Eve. Chariot, at your service. Thank you for my life. I am now in your debt. Now that we have introduced ourselves, and so that you may never bypass my life, I ask for your hand in marriage." Peg burst into laughter. Then the sound of a laughing horse came from his mouth. He quickly clenched his lips to stop the sound coming out. Eve pointed her finger at Peg with a smile on her face. "Are you sure you're not a horse?" Peg's cheeks began to blush as he shook his head. The boy king was sitting up on the ground, still surrounded by slime. He noticed he was naked. He asked Eve and Peg to turn round. "Why?" asked Eve. The boy stood up and the slime dripped off his naked body. Eve looked, her mouth dropped, her eyes wide, her face flushed over with a rosy red. "You can turn round now," said the boy king. Eve quickly turned away, only to be met by Peg with a big smile on his face as he gave Eve a wink. Eve frowned really harshly at Peg. The boy king turned to the ivory dragon. "Chariot, cover my body with claws and armour." Chariot sucked in the air of the forest through his wide nostrils, filling his lungs to full capacity. He began to exhale the air through his mouth, forcing the wind over the boy king. Cloth and metal started spinning in fragments round the boy's body, as if he were in the middle of a tornado. The fragments of cloth started to bond and attach to form a garment covering the boy. The metal started to bond, welding itself together, forming armour and chainmail. The boy asked Eve and Peg to turn back round. The tornado slowed in speed and stopped. Eve and Peg turned to see a shimmer working its way down the boy's body, bringing colour to his long dark hair and his deep brown eyes. The shimmer formed into a long white robe. A red cross in the shape of a sword pointing downwards appeared upon his chest. The armour turned into shining silver of brass, covering him from shoulder to his feet. Peg looked up to the sun. "Time is growing short. The sun is now in its last quarter. We must go and go now," he said. Chariot stretched his huge wings, then his back, and he shook his head and rose to his feet. "Come, sire, we must go to the Lady Nimue. Excalibur awaits," he said to the boy. The boy pointed to the devastated forest. "The red dragon must be slain. Excalibur will have to wait." Peg raised his voice. "Wait? It cannot wait. It cannot be. Nimue cries out for you. Can you not hear her pleading for you?" The boy replied with anger in his voice, "If the red dragon reaches the lake of oblivion, Satan will walk once more upon Eden. I will not let evil prevail." Chariot turned to face the boy. "Sire, we will never catch up with him now, but we still have a chance to free the Lady Nimue. The sun is hitting the horizon now. We have minutes left. If we don't go now, 1,000,000,000 years of nothingness will be upon us. Think of your people." The boy lowered his tone. "You are right. The Lady Nimue cannot wait. Come, let us go. Let us become one once more with Excalibur. Straighten, Chariot." Chariot lowered his head. The boy ran onto his nose, then up between his eyes and onto his forehead. Then jumping and spinning, he turned himself round in mid-air and landed astride Chariot's neck. Peg said to Eve, "Climb up," and he kneeled for her to climb onto his back. Eve quickly mounted Peg. Chariot turned to Peg. "Lead the way." Peg opened his wings and with an almighty swoop went flying up into the sky. Eve was flung backwards, holding tightly onto Peg's white mane. Chariot quickly followed. Soon Peg and Chariot were flying at an incredible speed, so fast that nothing could be distinguished. The wind went whistling past, with Eve getting wet and then dry as they hit the rain clouds and came back out of them. Eve looked to her left. Upon Chariot's back, the boy's long hair was blowing almost straight out behind him. "Down here!" Peg tucked his wings in and headed straight down, diving. Eve's stomach felt a lifting sensation. She was sure they were going to hit the forest floor. Her heart missed a beat. She blinked and then she was floating as Peg landed like a feather. Eve could see Excalibur in front of her. She jumped off Peg's back. The sun was now just visible through the forest floor. A shadow passed over Eve and Peg. They looked up to see Chariot's huge form flying above, coming into land. Chariot curled his neck round, lifting the boy with his teeth, then dropped him beside Excalibur. Pull the sword, shouted Peg. Chariot came into land. A single pin of shining light was left on the horizon, flickering, ready to disappear for 1,000,000,000 years. The boy placed his hands around the handle and pulled Excalibur from its 1,000,000,000-year grasp. He thrust the point of the sword into the night sky. A bolt of blue intense light made of water shot outwards from the tip of Excalibur, reaching the highest shining star above. The star shattered into 1,000,000 pieces and lit up Eden, as if it were illuminated by millions of coloured lights. As the fragments of the star began to fall, "Behold, I give you Nimue, back to Eden, for my name is Arthur Pendragon of Lagresse. I am well and truly one with Excalibur." Arthur lowered Excalibur to his chest, the handle pointing downwards and the tip downwards. The red cross upon his chest surrounded Excalibur and absorbed the sword. The sword and the red cross formed into one. The pieces of the star slowly descended and landed all over Eden. The light slowly faded into darkness of the night. Arthur stood proud in the yellow glow of Eve's wings. We rest here for tonight and search for the red dragon tomorrow morning. Chapter 4. Through the Lake of Oblivion.